Well, Hurricane Erin is expected to become a major hurricane yet again as we head through this afternoon and then going through tonight and tomorrow morning. Hey everyone, I'm meteorologist Anthony Carpino. I've been keeping a close eye on Erin over the last week or so. Now, as we move through the next few days, it's getting closer to the east coast of the U.S., but still not expected to make landfall. What we have noticed is definitely some rough surf up and down the eastern seaboard with rip currents and even some high waves as well. That's already causing some erosion problems as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Let's talk about the latest imagery from Erin. This was from a little bit earlier today, but you can see a much more tight wound system than what we saw yesterday. Yesterday, it was trying to feed in, some of that drier air, and that kind of degraded it just a little bit. But we take a look at the imagery here, looking at the water vapor, you can see a lot of green, not too much in the way of dry air. In fact, much of the dry air is on that bottom left-hand side of your screen there, so not really seeing all that much in the way of dry air right now, and that's going to be one of the components that keeps Erin a little bit more healthy as it moves further up to the north. Of course, the hurricane hunters, they have been busy. In fact, they're going through the eye wall right now. They've been keeping an eye on a couple of things. Of course, wind speed, but they're also monitoring the pressure. You can see as Erin's moved further and further to the north, well, they've also seen a decreasing in pressure earlier this morning, pressure of about 948. Now that is down to about 943. So a little bit of drop in pressure. Increasing that wind speed will be likely for us as we head through this afternoon. And eventually we'll end up seeing more of those direct impacts here in New England over the next day or so. So keep that in mind. Here's the latest on Erin right now. Winds at 110 miles per hour. So a strong category 2 hurricane. But as you can see with that M on the screen, it is expected to become a major hurricane a little bit later on tonight or by tomorrow morning. I want to take you through the interactive map here, just showing, of course, the center of Erin, but also how far those tropical storm force winds, that's in that area of lighter orange there, than the deeper area of orange. That's where we have hurricane force winds. Now, Erin will continue to work its way further to the north, but by the time we get to tomorrow morning, well, it's starting to shift more and more to the northeast. Right now, we do have tropical storm warnings in effect for the Outer Banks of North Carolina and sections of Virginia as well, right along the Delmarva Peninsula there. But it continues to work its way further off to the north, shifting to the northeast and staying south of New England. So that is some good news for us in New England, but we will keep an eye on the beaches. We will keep an eye on the oceans as well because it is expected to get a little bit rough. We do have high surf advisories that are already in place for sections of Long Island, the South Shore of Long Island, sections of Rhode Island, Block Island, as well as the South Shore of Massachusetts. And of course, that includes Martha's Vineyard as well as Nantucket, where they could end up seeing some of the strongest winds as well as some of the highest waves as well. We'll start in Long Island Sound first. Fortunately, in Long Island Sound, we have Long Island to block much of the waves. So that is good news for places along the Connecticut shoreline. So we'll start 8 a.m. on Thursday. We're looking at our winds as well as our ocean components here. So you can see that on the bottom part of your screen there. Of course, the brighter those colors get, the more intense either the wind or the waves are. And you might notice those little white particles there floating on the screen. That shows our wave direction. So 8 a.m. on Thursday, those waves are mainly coming in out of the south. Erin's still further off to the south at this point, but it will continue to work its way further to the northeast, and we'll see those wave directions also change. So we take a look at Long Island Sound there. Wave heights by Thursday morning, about a foot to 2 feet from the Bridgeport to the New Haven area. Of course, the further you get into Long Island Sound, especially in the middle from New Haven to Long Island itself, that's where we can end up seeing some of those higher wave heights. So if I put this in the middle of the sound, that will jump up just, a little bit more. But then as we get closer to central areas of Long Island Sound, you can see those waves getting a little bit higher, closer to 2 feet or so. The mouth of the Connecticut River, a foot to 2 feet as a possibility. And then as Long Island starts to break apart a little bit there, a couple of the gaps, we could see some of those higher wave heights there. So between Fisher's Island and the northern tip of Long Island, we could see wave heights there between about 2 to 4 feet. Same thing after Fisher's Island and in the mainland there of Rhode Island. that potential for wave heights to be a little bit higher, 4 to 6 feet. And of course, as you get into Block Island Sound, that's where things become a little bit more heavy with those winds as well as higher wave heights there. So we put the cursor there in the middle of Block Island Sound there. Wave heights getting closer. We zoom in here, closer to about 4 to possibly up to 6 feet with those wave periods about 13 to 15 seconds or so. So we're definitely seeing some higher wave heights there. And the current's also pretty strong as well. We'll take a look at the rip current risk here in just a second. But if you go to the south of Block Island, anywhere from Block Island to Montauk, that is going to be a little bit more of a rough ride for sure. That's where we can end up seeing wave heights there closer to potentially even 8 feet. And this is still Thursday morning. This is 8 a.m. Thursday morning. We're going to go through each time slot here all the way along the southern New England shoreline there. From Block Island to Newport, this is where we could also see waves between about 5 to 8 feet. We get closer to Martha's Vineyard. This is just outside the western shore of Martha's Vineyard. They're still the same thing, anywhere from about 5 to 7 feet. And we go to the south shore of Martha's Vineyard, South Beach there, just offshore. Same kind of heights, but this is in the morning. As we start to step our way forward, this is now 2 in the afternoon on Thursday. We're starting to see those wave heights increasing, potentially even getting closer to 10 feet by the afternoon on Thursday for areas south of Martha's Vineyard as well as Nantucket. This is now getting through Thursday evening. We're expecting the peak wave heights anywhere from Thursday night all the way through early sections of Friday morning. It really just going to depend where you are on the shoreline there. So likely seeing those higher wave heights for places like Cape Cod by the time we get to Friday morning there. Meanwhile, if you're in Bridgeport, Connecticut, or a little bit further into Fairfield County, Connecticut, likely seeing the peak already coming to an end. So let's go back to Long Island Sound. This is again Thursday evening where we can end up seeing those peak wave heights. Likely seeing peak wave heights after midnight for most locations. So we'll stop the clock here at about 2 a.m. on Friday. So the Bridgeport area, this is where we could see waves still about 1 to 3 feet. And I think much of Long Island Sound, especially right along the shoreline, is where we'll see those wave heights closer to 1 to 3 feet in the New Haven area. About 2 or 3 feet there. We get to the mouth of the Connecticut River. That's where we're starting to see those wave heights start to pick up a little bit more. So especially for areas east of the mouth of the Connecticut River, we'll see those wave heights increasing a little bit more. Now look at those wave directions coming right in out of the south-southwest there. And then as they work its way through Long Island Sound, they start to tend coming in more out of the east. So keep that in mind too. If you have plans to go out in the water, there's already small craft advisories that are in effect for Long Island Sound, and then some gale watches that are in effect as you get closer to Newport and then further out into the Atlantic there. So still 2 a.m. Friday morning, wave heights getting closer to the Stonington area now. Now this is where we could see wave heights more than 4 feet, maybe 4 to 6 feet between Fishers and Watch Hill. And then as we move into Long Island, and out of Long Island Sound, rather into Block Island Sound, going through the beaches of Musquamacut, 6 to 8 feet not to be ruled out there. That continues as we get closer to Point Judith, and then getting into the Newport area just outside of Newport, 6 to 8 feet still. You go to the south shore of Block Island, though, and this is where we start to really see those wave heights increasing a little bit more. Wind direction, gusty still out of the northeast, about 15 to 30 knots at times, closer to that 25 to 30 knot range. And you can really just see that bluer arrow there showing that wind direction, 26 knots there, and wave heights anywhere from about 10 to even 12 feet as you move to the south of Block Island. Newport at this time, we're also talking about those waves anywhere from about 8 to 10 feet in height. But just to the south of Martha's Vineyard there, you really notice those waves increasing anywhere from about 10 to possibly even up to about 15 feet. Definitely talking about that as we head through, or looking rather, for areas south of Nantucket, where they're definitely going to be having some stronger rip currents as well. This all just continues as we go through portions of Friday. But notice here, as we move through Friday morning, this is 2 in the afternoon on Friday. we start to see the worst of the waves start to die down a little bit. And in fact, by the time we get to the weekend, so we'll jump ahead to Saturday morning there, we are definitely seeing some calmer waves. The swells have gone down to about 3 to 6 feet south of Nantucket. We go back to Block Island Sound there. Swells are anywhere from about, again, 3 to 6 feet. Wave heights still a little bit choppy out there for sure. It's definitely not going to be calmed down by the weekend. Still expect some rough surf if you're heading out on the water. But if you're in Long Island Sound, still expect some calmer conditions. So Long Island still coming in to keep us a little bit calmer. So that is some good news for us. But we're going to keep a close eye on Erin as we move through the next few days. Again, the biggest impacts there coming in the form of rip currents for the beaches, as well as those higher wave heights. And before I go, we'll quickly show you guys the latest on some of those rip current risks. And you really can end up seeing this up and down the eastern coast. So I'll zoom in here, and you can see that red extending from essentially Fort Lauderdale in the Miami area, Florida, all the way up to, well, the areas in Long Island. And this continues through the tip of Montauk, but still moderate to high rip currents expected for places in and along the Rhode Island shoreline, wrapping all the way up to Provincetown on the tip of the Cape. So keep that in mind as we head through this next few days. Still expecting some pretty rough surf, even for places in southern New England where the hurricane has definitely moved past. So expect rough conditions to continue as we move through this weekend, and then eventually starting to calm things down as we head into portions of next week. Now, I will say that, yes, we are going to be leaving Erin behind, but this is still the peak of hurricane season. So 2 more other areas of development that's worth keeping an eye on. A 40% chance that's just moving past the Cape Verde Islands right now. And another area of development, 60% chance in the middle of the Atlantic right now. Looks to be more of an impact for the Lesser Antilles and then maybe even for Bermuda, but still worth keeping an eye. We'll have more updates as Erin gets a little bit closer. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Have a great day.